Hello, everybody. Once again, this is Patience Noah Fuller, and welcome to Entrepreneurship Tea. Today, I have a special guest with me that is in the healthcare staffing space. This young lady and we met at a networking event, I believe about 3 years ago. She was just in the beginning stages of her business. And now, 3 years later, she's made so many strides in her business journey. I follow her on LinkedIn and I follow her on Facebook as well. And some of the things that she posts about, I can relate to it. Listen, okay, this entrepreneurship journey is not for the faint of at heart. And I'm here with Diane Preston to tell us her story and how she came into entrepreneurship. But before that, let me read you her resume so that you can know how awesome Diane is. Okay. So Diane Preston is a registered nurse. Okay. Diane Preston is a registered nurse, entrepreneur, and the founder of Catering Medical Staffing LLC, a certified minority-owned women business healthcare staffing and training organization based in Springfield, Massachusetts. For the past 3 years, Diane has been providing staffing services to nursing homes, assisted living facilities, and schools throughout Massachusetts. In 2025, she expanded her company's offerings to include CPR training for staff and community organizations, partnering with nonprofits and individuals seeking essential skills. Ian is now in the final stages of developing a nursing assistant training program licensed by the Massachusetts Department of Public Health, with plans to offer day and evening classes. Oh, that's awesome. Including bilingual options to create accessible workforce opportunities for working adults and single parents. Looking ahead, Care Medical Staffing aims to become a licensed private school in Massachusetts. Yes, offering a variety of healthcare training programs, including phlebotomy and medical assisting, while providing pathways for students to secure employment through clinical and staffing partnerships. Diane's leadership has been recognized through awards in the Springfield Chamber of Commerce Startup Business Awards, per 60, and the 100. Come on, my computer is frozen. Diane's leadership has been recognized through awards, including the Springfield Chamber of Commerce Startup Business Awards, Super 60, and the 100 Women of Color recognition. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Ms. Diane Preston to Entrepreneurship Tea. Diane, how are you doing today?
Thank you so much. Thank you for that introduction. I was thinking as you were talking, it's been 3 years. How amazing.
3
It's
years.
been 3 years. Yeah, for sure. Around this time also, I think it was around the fall, winter time when we first
Yep.
started, because we opened up for business in September of 2022. But I am doing well and I'm so
Yeah.
excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me. It is a pleasure. And I've been watching you as well do amazing things. And I am very, very grateful to be here.
Oh, you are welcome. You're welcome. So your resume is extensive. So I actually saw a couple of maybe like about a month ago or less. I saw a post on your Facebook page that talked about how you started off as a CNA, right? And now you're a registered nurse. And I was like, oh my gosh, like her journey is amazing. I know as a minority owned women business like myself, like I would like for you to sort of like walk us through your journey, right? And when you were a kid, like did you ever think that owning a business was something that was even at the top of your mind?
No, not at all. I remember like as a little girl, I didn't want to have a babysitting. I did want to do babysitting. And I think that was like the only
Okay.
real entrepreneur thought that I had. And even at that time, I didn't know I didn't know that that's really entrepreneurship. But no,
Yeah.
growing up, I didn't, and I didn't know what I wanted to do, and I think that's what makes my story so special and important is the fact that like I had a tough upbringing. I dropped out of school when I was 16 years old. Also, when people talk about like, oh,
Wow.
did you think that this is what you were going to do? Like, no, I actually never thought that I'd do anything. If that. So, it is,
Yeah.
it's super inspiring. because I didn't also see people that look like me do what I'm doing right now. So to be able to be in my position
Yeah.
and be able to speak life into people who are struggling or might not have any goals or think that they're capable of doing things, to sit there and be like, hey, this is real life. Like I did it, which is, why I love like
Right.
teaching CNAs, because I look at them and I'm like, listen, I was you guys. And they're like, oh my God, like really? So until you see it really happening, you don't even think that it's possible.
Yeah, and I think that's a really important point that you touched on, because seeing someone who, dropped out of school at 16 and looking back at, young
Mhm.
adolescents age, right? Once parents see that, or even people see that young adolescents, they're struggling with trying to find their path in life, sometimes society has this way of casting them out, right? And just really hearing your story as to how you have built yourself to where you are now is really inspiring. And I really hope that any young person, I hope, one of the young kids that I mentor, they're watching this to let it, or anyone who's just struggling in their early
Right.
20s and things like that, right? So that I hope they get inspired by your story, so that they know that, just because something didn't happen for you when you were in your teens or your early 20s, it doesn't mean that at some point along the
Right.
road you can't pick up, the pace and, go and surpass those who've been doing it for a long time. So I think that's really inspiring. Seeing that from, okay, age 16, you drop out of school, and now eventually going to go through the CNA path. Like,
Yeah.
tell me, like, how was that journey? Like, what brought about the passion to even pursue
So
healthcare?
the passion for healthcare, like I started off when I was 17, I was a direct care staff, which is where and I worked in an assisted living
Okay.
facility in Amherst. So I was 17 years old and I loved it. I loved the geriatric population. I love
Mhm.
seeing them eat and be happy, and them, communicating with one another. They'd sit in their tables and, communicate, and that's what I loved. So after that, I ended up I was a dietary
Mhm.
aide. I'm sorry. I was a dietary aide at the assisted living. After that, I became a direct care staff in a group home. So I worked in a group home again with
Got it.
people with disabilities, and I loved it. And from then I was always like, that's what I want to do. Like I wanted to take care of people. I just didn't know to the extent of that this passion was going to, how deep this passion would be, until I had my son, or I was
Mhm.
pregnant with my oldest. So I was pregnant with my oldest when I was 18. No, I was 19 years old. I lived in a shelter. So I lived in a shelter when I was 3 months pregnant, and I was like, oh my God, I got to get my life together. I was a high school dropout. My license was suspended because I had a bunch of, tickets and inspection sticker tickets, and I had no job. And I was like, I have to get it together. And I literally sat tell people this story. I literally sat on the floor in the shelter, and I took a notebook and I wrote a list of goals. And in those goals, I was like, all right, I need to get my GED. I want to get my apartment. I need to get a job, get my car, get my license, get my nursing degree, buy my house, get married. And that's where ended at the time. So as the years went on, I started
Wow.
accomplishing, all the stuff that I put on that list, where I had to go and make another list of goals, to accomplish the next ones. But really,
Mhm.
me being pregnant with my son and
Yeah.
being like, oh my God, this is real life. There's a human that I'm going to be responsible for, is what really ignited
Mhm.
me to get my life together. And it really, like, what was it? Right. Cause everybody goes through things, like our resilient levels are different,
Yeah.
but this was God. Like, I'd be like, this
Right.
was all God, because there's no way that I could have overcome everything that I went through in my life without
Right.
somebody more powerful, than my.
Yeah. No, I think I mean, and that's even so inspiring, like hearing your story, because again, back to that, again, you really get into that stage of your life that you're like, listen,
Hmm.
I need to get it together. Right. And not being selfish to really just say, you know what, this is the cards that
That's
life has dealt me. So I'm going to remain in this state because I'm not worthy of
Yep.
anything better than this stage in my life. I think that is so important, and that's so inspiring that you were able to overcome. Like you said, like all of us,
Right.
resilient levels
Right.
are different, right? But you could have said, I'm sure your environment didn't really
Right.
present anything to you that you're like, okay, I need to
Right.
aspire to be X, Y, and Z, right? So really hearing that is so, so inspiring. And wow, honestly, like my heart
Mhm.
is like bursting right now. That
Mhm.
is so, so awesome. So now, okay, so you've gone through this phase. Now you've
Mhm.
written down your goals, right? Now you're a CNA. And actually, before we even go to the next question, let me tell you a funny story. In high school, like most of my friends are nurses or
Really?
they
Yeah.
loved the healthcare field. Yeah. So, even like actually my family, like if you think about it, majority of my family members are in the healthcare field. And in high school, my last summer of high school, I got my summer job and all my friends were working
That's
in the
so
nursing home at the time. So I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna go work in a nursing home too. And one of my friends put her neck on the line and got me a job to work with feeding the old people in the
hmm
assisted living facility. I literally went for one day,
Yep.
one
Yep.
day, and I never went back. And she was so pissed off at
Yep.
me. So the fact that you were able to
Right.
find passion in that, I think that's really admirable. So do you think that for anyone to be able to love or have a passion for this job, is there
Yep.
special qualities that you need to have
Yep.
as an individual?
Yep. And I just
Tell me
posted
about
about this
that.
the other day because so through the years of like my hitting goals and accomplishments and, desires, I went to school and I got my bachelor's, which I never wanted it to teach, right? But
Mm,
ironically, last year I had an epiphany and I
yep.
was like, I want to teach. I was like, I want to teach CNAs. So I started sending
Mm,
my resumes out to community
wow.
colleges. So this year I started teaching and I love it. Okay, hence why we fast forward, which I'm starting a training program, but I already wanted to do it. I just didn't realize how
Yeah.
much I love teaching until now. Anyway, so I teach
Oh,
CNAs, which
wow.
is really amazing because I'm able to tell them, hey, I started off like you guys, right? Because it's one thing to have somebody tell you how to do things and
Yeah.
you've never done what you're telling me to do. And it's another for me to be in the position that I
Yep.
am to be like, hey, I was there. So I don't even as an employer,
Yeah.
right, with my nurses and CNAs, everybody that I send out, I'm a nurse before anything else. So what I'm telling you or asking for of you, I'm willing
Yeah.
to do myself, which is really important
Yeah.
owning a business that I
Yeah.
that I own. But as CNAs, I always tell them
Mhm.
I can teach you all the skills you need to be a CNA, right? I can teach nurses, you could teach all
True.
you want, but if you don't have the compassion and the
Yeah.
patience to care for people, you will never thrive. And I think that it's
Yeah.
important when we get into things, even, you see people older, they change careers later on in life, like whatever. Just whatever you do in life, your
Right.
purpose and your passion has to align. If they don't align, there's just a huge
Yes.
disconnect, right? So if you get somebody that is compassionate and they're
Mhm.
patient and they really feel this, their heart, my heart is filled with joy taking care of people. You know what I mean? If you don't feel that at the end of your day,
Wow.
it's not for you because I can't teach a
Yeah.
CNA to have compassion. I can teach you the skills that you need in order to pass your state exam and for you to go out and know what's expected of you. But to teach you to care about these people that we're caring for, I can't teach that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and I think that's a great point. And I also tell like the people that
Mhm.
that work with me as well. Like I can teach you everything you need to know about
Yeah.
insurance, but I can't
Yeah.
give you
That's it.
drive,
That's it.
right? I can't give you, you know, this intuition, I can
Right.
give you the sense of urgency. Like there's just certain things that you can't teach, right?
Yep.
Has to be in you, and then whatever else that gets added on or
Yep.
that needs to be taught needs to be right. So it's really, really important, especially for the
Right.
younger ones that are coming after us, right? That maybe
Right.
might come into entrepreneurship or maybe go
Right.
into the career world,
Mm.
for them to understand that, listen, you need to figure out what that
Right.
core thing that you have is, right? It could be compassion, it could be drive, it could be
Mhm.
passion, whatever it is. There are certain things that you
Right.
need to discover within you and that you can hold on to, because we can't teach that to you. No one can teach that to you. That can be developed either from your environment, right? And I think for you, maybe, I don't know how you developed this compassion for the people. Maybe if you can tell us how you came about this compassion. I don't know if it's something that,
Mhm.
was in your family, is
Mhm.
something you've always had. How
You
did you
know,
develop that
I
compassion?
I give a lot of credit to my mom and my upbringing when I was really little, right? Like when my parents were together and I was really little,
Mm,
there was always love, like things were, all families
mm,
went through things, right? But ultimately there was a lot of love. And I've brought that
mm,
into my motherhood, right? Like as I have two kids, I have a 20-year-old and an 8-year-old.
mm.
So I always say like little babies, I can hang
Oh,
out with
wow.
them all day long. I know how to treat them. As they get older in the adolescent years, when I was like on my own, it's always been a little more of a struggle, but it's because I didn't have the role models that I should have had at that age, right? So being a role model for my son when he was 15, 16,
Yeah.
I struggled with it. But when he was little, I didn't. And I feel like a lot of my compassion comes from how my parents were with us when we were little, right? My mom was always present and loving, and my father was loving. And I think that's where it initially came from, which is twofold, right? Because you can get somebody that didn't have love growing up that grows up and are like, wow, I want to treat other people better, right? Because I didn't have this. So
Right.
it could be twofold, but I do
Yeah.
feel like that's where my initial compassion came from. And then from there, something that really impacts me is the bad stuff that has happened to me, right? So like I was in a car accident in 2010. So ever since then, I always volunteer. I volunteer on Christmas because it's my favorite holiday. This Christmas will be my 15th year. I
Wow.
donate blood. That after that car accident, I was like, oh my God, I have to do better. Like I'm here for a greater purpose. And then, I had a stroke almost 3 years ago. I had a stroke. No residual, effects from it. But it's literally, I lost 2 children. Like I've been through a lot of stuff. And it's like everything that's bad that's happened to me, I took it and turned it into a way to make it positive, right? Rather than to sit in that pain. I always say, there's
Yeah.
no way that God put me through all this pain so I could just sit in it by myself, right? So if I could share my story to give somebody else encouragement or give somebody else, the strength to be like, wow, if she overcame it, I could overcome it. I'm like, then that must be what it is. But
Right.
my compassion that's why like
Wow.
I try to be a good person. Not that I'm perfect, but I do try to like live
Yeah.
a life, live a life with integrity and live a life with purpose. And, I treat people how I want to be treated. I know we're all going to get old. My father's passed. My
Yeah.
mother's going to get old. My children are going to be left on this world by themselves. I just treat people how I want to be
Right.
treated.
Wow. No, that is so, so, so amazing. So you've had this amazing journey in your career in
Mhm.
corporate, right? I would still say in corporate. At what point did it click for you that you wanted to make the transition to say, okay, I love this. Not only do I want to do this, but
Mhm.
I want to stand out on my own and be, I guess, take a hold of my life and try to create
Mhm.
something that will last in my family and
Right.
possibly live beyond me. Like at what point were you like, okay, I want to open a
Yep.
business, I want to run a
So for
business and
me,
things like
it
that?
was in 2018. So my youngest was 1 years old. So I stood home with him for the first 2 years of his life, right? I was
Mm,
a stay-at-home mom. I was an LPN at the time, and I was
mm,
finishing my RN, which was an LPN to RN for my associates. It was an online program. And one day I was laying in bed with him and I
mm,
looked at him and I was like, oh my God, I have to go back to work soon. And I'm like, no. I'm like, I need to do something so that I never miss a moment of his life, right? That I'll never miss any big moments of his life.
mm,
And that's when it dawned on me that I had to create a life for myself and work for myself. But because I know that, I knew
mm.
healthcare was passionate. I'm passionate about healthcare. I knew it had to be
Yeah,
something related to healthcare, right?
yeah.
Because I was like, there's nothing else. I can't cook. I can't
Mm.
bake. I can't sew anything. I can't fix stuff. Like, I'm like, whatever it is that I did had to be related to healthcare because that's where I'm going to love to be. So then I thought, what can I do in healthcare? And I thought about like the
Yeah.
staffing shortages. And this was before COVID happened, right? In 2018. So I thought
Mm,
about the staffing shortages and I
yeah.
thought about the nursing assistant training program. And I said, you know what? I'm going to start a staffing agency and I'm going to start the staffing agency. And afterwards, I'm going to start training.
Mm,
And I literally went online and I created the EIN
yeah.
number, created the logo. And I said, all right, you know what? Let me wait till I get my associates because I always felt that I'd be a greater asset if I had a higher degree. So I put it all in a folder and I put it away.
Yeah.
And then in 2020, I was like, all right, COVID had hit. I was like, it's
Wow.
time for me to do something and start the process. So I created the LLC and then we opened for business in
Mhm.
2022. But ultimately I wanted time freedom. I wanted to be able to run my
Yeah.
own life, not have somebody else tell me when I could take time off. I don't have enough vacation time. I can't go. No, I can't go to my son's music show at school because nobody, like I didn't never wanted to deal with that. So
Yeah.
I did just that. And then 2 years, someone after he was 2, I started working per diem. And I said, I've never worked for a company full time since
Yeah.
before he was born. Since I was pregnant with him, I was a home care nurse. And all these
Wow.
years since he's been here and I've worked per diem for myself or for a company per diem, but I make my own schedule. I make my own life. And that's what I wanted. I wanted time
Mm.
freedom. And then through the process, I found passion
Wow.
in other things and realized how much I love teaching.
That is Awesome. 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 So let's talk about when you get started, like when you start, right? Obviously, those of us who started the last 5 years, COVID
Mhm.
was definitely a challenging time for us to get started. But of course, you guys in the healthcare field, maybe your story is a little bit different because that was when, staffing, like the need for
Right.
staffing was at its all-time high, right? Healthcare industry. Like, what would you say was some of the challenges you faced in the beginning of getting your business started besides, that thing that every entrepreneurship deal with, which is like,
Yep.
okay, that fear of getting started, right? Because I always say the
Yep.
biggest hurdle to get over is to get it started, right? And then once you get it started, I
Yep.
feel like the rest you can figure it out as you go, right? So once you got yours started, like what would you say the challenges
Mhm.
were in the beginning, right? Because
Mhm.
definitely I insure
Mhm.
staffing agencies
Yep.
and the challenge
Yep.
is real. Sometimes I have some of them calling me and literally like almost crying to me, but how did you navigate the
Yep.
challenges of having a healthcare staffing,
Yep.
especially in the early
So
stages to
I
now?
feel
How have you been
like,
able to
what's
navigate it?
funny is that a part of me is like, oh, I should have started in 2018 when I thought about it, right? Because I would have hit the big wave that happened when COVID hit. But everything
Mm,
happens for a reason, right? So
yep.
it is what it is, right? I can't change it. So I
Mhm.
feel like there was challenges that
Yeah.
probably came then, for people that were already in business when COVID hit, while the need was still there. Because staffing need has always been
Yep.
there. The need for other additional supplemental nurses and supplemental CNAs has always been there, and it will always be there. Okay. It's never going to not be there unless they go and shut down every single
Mm,
healthcare facility. And that's not going to happen, right? There needs to be assisted living facilities.
yeah.
There's always going to
Right.
be,
Right.
and I thought through the years that nursing homes will fade out because people will realize it's cheaper to have them at home and they get better quality
Yeah.
of care in the home setting versus in a facility that's has a ton of patients. But I don't even think that that's ever going to
Yeah.
transition anyways. So anyways, this need for staffing is always going to be there.
No.
My biggest challenges besides the getting started is selling myself,
Hmm.
right? Having people like, how do I tell you to come to my staffing
Okay. Yep.
agency when there's this staffing agency that's been around for 15 years and this one that's been around for 20 years? So that's always been a
Mm,
big part, and it still is a challenge, right? The only thing is that I just move with purpose, right? I just
mhm.
move with purpose. I have contracts
Yeah.
with schools that we're the only staffing agency that's in there. That is an honor. That's amazing. And what has helped me is my
Mhm.
reputation. Right? So it's the
Yeah.
reputation that I have with other schools that refer other schools to me. It is the reputation that I have with my staff that they refer other staff to me. Me moving with purpose, I'm about
Mm,
quality over quantity. So I would prefer to have 30 quality staff than to have
yeah.
300 staff and them not be of quality. So that's stuff that it has been challenging, but this is how I turn it to make it not be so challenging, if that makes any sense. Another challenge with the staffing, besides the
Yeah.
competition, right? Because it is very competitive, like I just said, is receiving payment on time.
Yeah.
Okay. This is probably what you hear a lot about.
Yeah.
Contracts are for 30 days. Facilities don't pay for
Yep.
90 days. I just met another owner of a staffing
Mm,
agency, and he's had to sue facilities because they went bankrupt and they owed him $200,000, and it's a loss. And I've never lost that much,
oof.
which I never even get to that point because I'm real like,
Yeah.
listen, if you don't make the payment by the end of the week, we're pulling all our staff out.
Yeah, give me
But
my
I had
money.
to learn how to do it because it literally took me months to be like, wait, no, I have leverage. Like, I have staff that they need. If you don't make a payment, there's nobody's going to show up. And that kind of makes them be like, okay, wait, she's not playing. Let's send our money, which it
Yeah.
shouldn't have to get to that. But that's my resolution of it, but that is a challenge, making sure to have like the working capital, having reliable quality staff, building these relationships with people so they can see that while I'm small, I'm mighty. Okay. But those are some of the staffing challenges that
Right.
I've
Yeah.
ran into in the beginning, and I still do. I still run into complications,
Yeah.
like that. That is what it is. I think it's staffing in general.
Yeah. One of the things that I really admire about you that I see you doing that a lot of people that are in your industry don't do is you're out there, right? You do a good job at going to networking events, showing up. And I always say this to my healthcare, like anyone who's in the healthcare industry, that are in the non-medical transportation industry,
Mhm.
staffing industry, home healthcare
Right.
industry. You have to be out there, right? And a lot of people, they can say, okay, like I'm good at the healthcare
Right.
part, but you never see them at an event or anything like that. Like, talk
Mhm.
about the importance
Mhm.
of putting yourself out there, because I really want my staffing or my healthcare clients or just anyone in the healthcare industry in general
Mhm.
that's complaining about, oh, I'm struggling to find contracts, I'm struggling to do X, Y, and Z, right? Talk about it from an industry perspective about the importance of really putting yourself out there,
Mhm.
because I feel like it's not enough, right? For you to just have good staff or for you to just have good facilities. Like, you have to
Right.
put yourself out there as the founder, as the CEO. It's part of the I guess it's part of the package. So I want you to talk on that a little bit so that folks out there can really understand the importance about this piece, because it's
Right.
missing from a
So,
lot of founders
no,
in
that
this
is
field.
very important. Luckily for me, I enjoy it. Right. I'm an extrovert. I'll talk to anybody. I'll go anywhere
Mm.
by myself. I don't need a bunch of people. I don't need. I met you. I was by myself. Right, in Central Mass or Boston or somewhere. Okay.
Yeah, you were by yourself all the way
Yep.
from
So that
Springfield.
is
Yeah,
me
in Framingham.
100%, and it
Yes.
is wonderful. It's a wonderful trait to have. But I also came into this industry. I came into
Yeah.
this business world just like that. Listen, I know healthcare. I'm a nurse. Like, the business
Mm.
aspect was something new that
Yeah.
I had to learn. I learned everything about it. I know my business inside and out. You know what I mean? But being able to network and meet people, you learn
Mm.
from
Mhm.
anybody. If I did not put myself out there and meet
Mm.
people, my business wouldn't be what it is today. Okay? Like, literally, it has been
Mm.
from connections. It has been from,
Mm.
this is how I've gained resources. This is how I've gained knowledge. You have a conversation. So I'm an RN observer in
Mm.
Massachusetts. So I test CNAs. I can't test my students, but I can test other people's students. So I met an owner
Mm.
of another school that's in the area. And
Mhm.
listen, we talked maybe 30 minutes. I learned so much from that man in those 30 minutes. Okay. I gave him some insight. He gave me some insight. I'm like, if I would have just
Mm.
grabbed my bag and ran and left, like, my job's done, bye, I would have missed out in some valuable information. Right. So I think
Right.
that, like, networking, you learn so much.
Mm.
And then, it's just people see that I care because I'm present. Right. So even, like you say, I put myself out there. There's times that I'll pick up
Yeah.
shifts and I'll work with my nurses. I'll work with my CNAs. I'll be the charge nurse. They'll be the CNA on the floor.
Mm.
It speaks
Wow.
volumes. And I always tell facilities when they call me for staffing, I'll be like, they're like, well, what happens if
Mm.
there's a call out? If there's a call out, most likely I'm going to come in
Mhm.
and cover the shift. You know what I mean? Like, it's so respected, but it kind of just goes part with, like, who I am
Mm. Yeah.
and how I'm out there. Right. So people are going to see me. You're going to see me, whether it's at a networking event, whether I'm
Yeah.
supporting a friend at an event or a speaking engagement, or I'm at a speaking engagement. I just think it's important to just be present, and building those relationships are
Yeah.
invaluable.
Yeah. No, that's great. That's great. And I think one of the things that I feel like you do well is really understanding, what role you play in your organization, right? And I know a lot of founders struggle with this. I know I struggled with it for a while. Like, at what point did it
Mhm.
dawn on you, okay, I'm good at this aspect of my business. You know what? Let me stick to it and try
Mhm.
to hire people for the ones that I'm not good at. Like, at what point did that sort of dawn on you in your journey of being an entrepreneur versus, listen, I
Right.
need to have an octopus arm, right?
I am still struggling
How
with
have you
that, and I
navigated that?
still try to navigate with it. I think a part of it
Mm.
is, they say, right, if you want something done
Mm.
right, you do it yourself, but, like, I know in order to grow and take business
Yeah.
to another level, I need to have a solid team, right? And that is what I know moving
Mhm.
forward.
Yeah.
With so we started CPR classes. So
Yeah.
this year we started CPR classes. We do them for the staff, for the community, different organizations. And my son is one of our instructors, right? He's a CNA instructor. He's also a CNA. He's one of my CNAs.
That's
So,
nice.
kind of like opening up and being comfortable,
Yeah.
being like, hey, you come and run the show. He runs his own CPR classes. This is me starting to do that, where I'm like, okay, I don't have to do
Wow.
everything. I have a solid person that I know that I can rely on, right? He's very,
Right.
very reliable. He's a fast
Mhm.
learner. And you know what? He loves healthcare like I do. right? So he did the CNA program last August. And after
Wow.
when he was in it, he would come home and tell me stories all the time. And I in my head, I said, he's going to want to go to school to be a nurse. Sure enough, when he finished the CNA program, he came home and was like, I think I'm going to go to be a nurse. And
Nice.
I said, that's right. So anyways, and then he taught his first CPR class and he was like, oh my God, I loved
That's
it, and it's, you have to love it. Like you have to love whatever it is that you're
awesome.
doing. But anyway, so now that we're doing
Yeah.
the training program, he is going to be the
Mhm.
program director, and he has his task that he's going to have to take care of and run. And that's going to alleviate me from doing some of the footwork that he's able to do so I can focus on other things, but it is a challenge. It is a challenge. It's letting go.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's our baby, our business. Like I built it. I want everything to go right. I know it like the back of
Yeah.
my hand, but being able to build those relationships and trusting people
Yeah.
and knowing how important it is to have a team, I think is what's going to help me get through it.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. And I think recognizing
Right.
recognizing it is a step in the right direction, right? And I think, again, you are on a journey. And this is what I always say, entrepreneurship is a journey. And as you grow
Right.
as a founder, as a CEO, you discover things and things like that. And then it puts you in the position to say, okay, this is the things, that I've identified about my organization. And these are the steps that I'm going to take to like have it fixed, right? And I think you're on the right path with that. So in your industry, there's this sense of competition, right? I know every industry has it, but the healthcare industry, I feel like, is just there to the point that people want to gatekeep information and they want to gatekeep information. Like, how do you navigate? And I know you mentioned this earlier that you had this conversation with a gentleman, after a CPR class and things like that. But I want you to talk about how you handle or how you navigate the competition in your space, right? So that one, it can help you create stronger
Right.
relationships with people, and then also help
So
you collaborate with
right.
people.
I feel like there's gatekeepers in all industries. I, for one, I'm always
Yeah.
asking questions. So, even if it was somebody that was trying to gatekeep and I'm asking a
Mm.
question, I'm gonna get whatever information I can get. Right. It just is what it is. I can't make them tell me more. But also,
Yeah.
like, I've learned a lot in the business realm that I was able to turn
Right.
around and utilize it for my industry. Right. So I learned a lot. It's not, you don't have to, when they tell you to be around
Mm.
like-minded individuals, like you don't have to be in the same industry as me for me to learn from you, right? So like that, I've learned to navigate through things from people that are not even in the
Yep.
same industry.
Mhm.
The other part is I'm not a gatekeeper. Like I'll literally give
Yeah.
somebody the entire blueprint of how I created my business, right?
Mm.
My thing is that yeah, there's competition, but nobody's like me, right? You're not going to get another
Mhm.
Diana that started off as a CNA that did this, that did
Right.
that. Oh, you're not going to get that. So what's different about me is what makes me stand out anyways. Also, there is a lot of competition. I'm okay with sharing information and
Mm.
blueprint. And I feel like that's the blessings that come back to me is because of how I move. Right. So like I don't know. I don't mind sharing
Yeah.
information. Navigating, I get information where I can get information, and I do a lot of research. My entire business was built out of research. I Googled
Right.
everything from creating the LLC to, getting my
Mm.
insurance to everything. My website, if you go on my website, caringmedicalstaffing.com, I created
Yeah.
that website. You know what I mean? Like everything I researched, I Googled, I met people,
Wow.
found information, took it, applied it to my business. So I don't know. I guess I haven't been truly impacted, or at least not that I noticed from
Wow.
gatekeepers, if that makes any sense. But they're definitely out there.
Yeah.
I just feel,
Yeah.
it is what it is. There's always going to be competition, right? You just got to think about how you're different. And I know that I'm different. And I love that about me.
Yeah. And I think the key thing that you said was
Right.
you know
Right.
how to get
Right.
information, the information that you want, right? And even
I'm
if the
taking
person is
as much
gatekeeping,
as I
you
can.
take what you need from that information. It may not be the whole thing, right? Get what you
Yep.
need, right? And move on to the next person. This is what I always say, like, because when I started, I had similar challenges where it felt like most of the people that I was
Mhm.
calling or that I had come across, they were gatekeeping and things like that, right? And then I randomly started
Yep.
picking up the
Yep.
phone and calling people that were not in my area, right? And
Yep.
asking them to meet with me for like 20 minutes, 30 minutes. just so I can pick their brain. Those who are in
Yep.
another state, because guess what? They're not going to feel like my competition because you're in
Yep.
California, you're in, Texas and things like that, right? I'm not your competitor. So that really helped me
Yep.
with eliminating the competition mindset, right? And also feeling like I'm boxed in and nobody wants to give me information. And I always tell
Yep.
people this, like,
Absolutely.
forget about
Yep.
gatekeepers. Gatekeepers will always be there, right? Just move on to the next person.
You
Like
got to
for
find your
every 2 no's
peoples.
you
You know, you
get,
got to
there's
find
always
your
a yes
peoples. Like through
waiting
my
at the
journey, I've
corner,
met a lot of
right?
people. And that's the thing about being outspoken and being an extrovert and getting yourself out there. Like this is how you learn stuff, you know, and it doesn't have to be, I don't have to call another staffing agency and be like, hey, can I get some
Yeah,
information? Like I could, but I can also learn stuff from other people. You know, I've had women that I met in the Worcester
right.
area, you know, that have been
Yeah.
instrumental to my business. And this was just from literally one day I went to a networking event out there. I met one
Mm,
Carla. She has been absolutely amazing. She's a co-owner of or co-founder of Wellstorm Inc. They're a nonprofit in Worcester. They have like a community fridge that people drop off food for people in need. People get
mhm,
food. It's amazing. So she told me about the nonprofit. I fell in love with it. And through her, I've met all these other amazing women and I learned so much from them. And none of them are in healthcare. Okay. But it was literally just putting myself out there, meeting these people. Plus, you find your
wow.
people, you know? So it's like, no, it doesn't have to be someone that owns a company similar of yours, but you find your
Mm,
people and you learn from them, you know, and that's it. You just, you know, you get what you need,
yeah.
you know? Mhm.
Yeah, no, that is awesome. That's awesome. So tell us what's the next step for your CEO journey? What do you envision
Yep.
beyond, you becoming a teacher and things like that for the business? What do you envision for your
Wow.
business for the next 5,
Yep.
10,
So
15 years? Where do we see ourselves going?
soon, my immediate goals, we're going to open up as a nurse assistant training program. We're going to be certified from
Hmm.
Massachusetts. I actually submitted our application. We are waiting for approval from the state. They'll contact us.
Right.
They'll come and check out the site. It could take a few months. So that is our next step. Once we get approved for that, we will offer the nursing assistant training program. It will start off being grant funded, which is great because everybody will be able to take the program regardless of
Mm,
whether they can pay for it or not, which is something that I really wanted to make sure that was done. So we'll have the nursing assistant training program grant funded. I am working on a nonprofit so that if people don't qualify for these organizations that offer grants, that I can get grants to run them through the nursing assistant training program themselves so that literally nobody
mhm.
ever has to pay for it. We're going to offer the classes in
Yeah,
English. We're going to add on Spanish
got it.
classes probably in the middle of the year. We're going to have day classes, evening classes, so like that people that can't do days can do
Mhm.
evenings. People that need Spanish can do the Spanish class. So that's immediate goals. Along with that, we are going to apply to become a private school in Massachusetts, because once we get that license through the Division of Licensure, we are
Nice.
able to do phlebotomy classes, which I used to be a phlebotomist, medical assistant classes, and just offer, I want to plan,
Right.
my plan is to have a real training center, right? Where we have CNAs, we have phlebotomy, we have medical assistant. So that is probably like in the next, 2 years, I want to say. Also, I'm in the final end of my master's. So I'm finishing my master's with a focus in management and leadership. I know everybody's always like, you're not doing education. And as much as I love education, management and leadership just feels like what I need to focus on, but I'm going to be an instructor starting
Mhm.
off with the programs, so I get to teach and continue that passion that I have while continuing the staffing agency and running the staffing agency. But that's my goals. That's my goals. 10 years, 10 years, 10 years, we're going to have a big building
Um,
and just have a ton of training programs running simultaneously, hopefully in other different
wow.
languages. Creole. We see a lot of Haitians in the area. That's a huge one. And
Wow.
working for the community college, I
Mhm.
see a
Yep.
huge Haitian population. So being able to offer in different languages would be amazing. But
Mm,
that's it.
yeah. Wow. Wow. That is, listen, your goals. I mean, and again, I follow you on social media, so I just can't wait to see your progress because, you have the fire in you, you have the tenacity, you have the
Right.
passion, right? Most of all, is the passion. And I think you touched on this a little bit. And this is what I always say, regardless of what you choose, especially on this entrepreneurship journey, have enough passion for it so that when the
Yep.
challenges of life comes, right, you can hold on. and your passion is definitely unmatched for your industry. I know you're going to make a huge change in the lives of our minorities or just anyone that comes through your door, because hearing your story, how far you've come, how far you've pulled yourself out of the
Mhm.
trenches is just super inspiring. And I wish
Thank
nothing but the
you.
best, okay? But the absolute best for you. And do you have any parting words for any of my entrepreneurs out there that are in the trenches, that are
You
maybe
know,
starting, but
no, a
they're
lot. If
afraid? Do
they
you have any
listen to this
parting
interview,
words
you know,
for them?
I said a lot about it, you know, just getting started and not giving up and putting yourself out there, you know, like you said, for every two no's, you get a yes, you know, and there's been times that I've been devastated, like, oh, they hung up on me when I was trying to get a staffing
Yep.
contract, you know, but then turns around and just God comes and I'll get an, you know, somebody that heard from another school and was looking for staffing coverage. And I'm just like, oh my God, look at that. Like this didn't work out, but this did. And everything happens for a reason. But, you know, just
Mhm.
finding your passion, you know, I
Yeah.
literally, I have a fire in me that cannot turn off. And I say this all the time,
Mhm.
you know, but you need to have a passion, and it's okay to pivot. I think that's a big one,
Yeah.
right? It's okay to pivot. It's okay to kind of reevaluate things and be like, all
Mhm.
right, maybe I got to do things a little different. You know, you just don't give up, you know, but you got to pivot. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That is awesome. Well, thank you so much. Where can we find you, right?
Yep.
Anyone that's maybe in the Springfield area, they want to
Yep.
come to your school, or just in general, anyone who's watching and might need staffing assistance, where can folks find you? I mean, your
Yep.
website, social media, all of that will be in the description.
Yeah.
But
I
just,
am
tell folks
I'm
out
all
there, how
over. You
can we
could find me
find, how can
on
we
Facebook,
locate
Diana
you
Preston.
for
I am on
support?
LinkedIn, Diana Preston. Caring Medical Staffing is on LinkedIn. We're on Instagram. We are located in Springfield. Another goal, we're going to
Mhm.
Central Mass. I'm starting a training program in Central Mass. Okay. That is one of my my big
Oh,
goals. But I can be reached
that's
my email, Diana at caringmedicalstaffing.com.
awesome.
You know, on my website, caringmedicalstaffing.com, there's two tabs there, one for people inquiring about jobs and one for staffing services. Our CPR classes are listed on the website. I'm
Yeah.
around. You can find me.
Awesome. Well, my friend, it's been a pleasure. And I hope anyone who's watching this interview will be blessed by your kind words, by your drive, your
Thank you. Thank you
tenacity.
for
And I hope
having
this
me. So
interview will
nice to
bless
see
someone.
you.
Thank you so
Always
much
so
for your
nice.
time. And thank you for
All
visiting
right. Thank
us.
you.
You are welcome. You are welcome. You are welcome. Alrighty, dear.